Thanks for tuning in. I'm Donnie. I've got about 25 hours on my 2021 Yamaha YZ250FX, and I think it's a good time to go ahead and check the valve clearances. I don't expect the clearances to be out of spec, but it'll give me a baseline for future checks. Alright, so removing the connections from the fuel tank can be a little bit tricky, but it's really not difficult. So to disconnect the wire from the fuel pump, all you need to do is squeeze that tab in, disconnect that. Disconnecting the fuel connection can be a little bit tricky. There's a little clip right here you have to take off that's not so obvious. So you disconnect that. It's just a little clip. To get it apart, you need to stick a little small screwdriver in there and open it up like that. So once you've done that, you can move this little red piece up, and then you squeeze these two little buttons in. I'm going to use some pliers on that because my fingers are fat. So with their manual and your spoke wrench and the other tools that came with the bike, they include these little stoppers, and the purpose of these is to plug up these connectors when you've got the tank disconnected. Alright, so I spent a fair amount of time cleaning everything in here so no dirt goes into the engine when I remove the valve cover. Alright, I've got on my marching line. I don't know if you can see that little arrow in there pointing upward toward that notch. That indicates top dead center. And then on my camshafts, I've got a mark right here and right here that line up with the top edge of the cylinder head. So when those two are lined up and I'm at top dead center down here, all the cam lobes are facing upward. That's the position I need everything to be in to measure the valve clearance. Got the intake valves on the front and the exhaust valves on the back. That's backwards from most dirt bikes. Alright, I'm referring to my manual for the valve clearances. For the intake, it should be 0.12 to 0.19 millimeters, and the exhaust should be 0.17 to 0.24 millimeters. Alright, I'm going to start on the intake side. I'm looking for 0.12 to 0.19 millimeters. I've got a 0.13, I don't have a 0.12, I've got a 0.10 and a 0.13, so I'll start with the lower end on the 0.13 millimeters. That fits in there. That's pretty loose, but it does go in there, and then over on this side it's really loose. So let's move up to 0.15. That's my next feeler gauge. So 0.15 fits snugly over here. .15 does not fit on that right side, so 0.13 was kind of loose over here. 0.15 doesn't fit, so I'm going to call that 0.14. And 0.15 seems to be the ticket over here, but I'm going to try, my next one up is 0.18. So I'll try 0.18. I don't think it's going to go in there. No. So we got 0.14 and 0.15 on the intake valves. Those are still within spec on the lower end of the spec, but they are still within spec. I'm gonna check the exhaust side. I'm looking for 0.17 to 0.24 millimeters. I'll start out with 0.18. .18 fits loosely on that side. And on that side as well. Let's try 0.20. Still fits, feels pretty snug. I think that's going to be about where we're at. Feels the same over here. Let's try 0.23. Does not fit. Doesn't fit over here either. I'll go back to 0.20 one more time. This 0.20 is a little loose on this side, but 2.3 doesn't fit, so I'm going to call that 0.21. So I'll call that 0.20 and 0.21 on the exhaust valves. Still within spec. All right, so I've recorded these measurements on the blank page in the back of my manual. The date, the hours, got the intake spec and the exhaust specs, and then I've got my clearances for each one. So I think these are good for now. I'll come back in another 20-25 hours or so and see where we're at.
So I had the camera off by mistake when I reinstalled the tank. Reinstalling it is much simpler than removing it. Just reconnect the fuel pump connector and the fuel line and make sure the fuel line is not pinched or kinked.
So you can see that's not terribly difficult, and it's something that most people can do themselves if you have a few tools. I'll put a list of tools that I used in this video in the description of the video along with some links, so definitely check that out. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.